Smoke still rose from the broken buildings across the city. 6 months had passed since the Dracoreans came from the stars and took Earth in less than a week. Their ships blotted out the sun. Their weapons turned entire armies to ash. Humanity never stood a chance against creatures that looked like the dragons from old stories. Except these dragons flew through space and conquered worlds for sport. Commander Wraith walked through what used to be downtown Seattle. His obsidian scales reflected the gray sky. Each step left cracks in the pavement beneath his weight. His wings, folded against his back, still measured 20 feet from tip to tip. Humans scattered when they saw him coming. Good. Fear meant order. Order meant less work for him. The Dracorian Empire had a simple philosophy. Strength was everything. Weakness deserved extinction. For 10,000 years they had swept through the galaxy, taking what they wanted. Hundreds of species either served them now or existed only in historical records. Earth would be no different. What puzzled Wraith was how humans behaved after their defeat. Most species accepted their place quickly. They understood that fighting was pointless. But humans did something strange. They kept helping each other. They shared food when they barely had enough. They risked punishment to hide the sick and elderly. They even took care of children who weren't their own. His second-in-command, a younger Dracorian named Voss, walked beside him. Voss had been asking questions all morning. Annoying questions. Commander, the humans in Settlement Zone 7 are wasting resources again, Voss said. His voice carried the typical Dracorian disdain for weakness. They're feeding younglings that have no parents. These children provide no labor. They consume food. Why not terminate them? Wraith had asked himself the same question. In Dracorian society, orphans didn't exist. If parents died, the strongest relatives took the offspring. If no relatives existed, the young were eliminated. Resources went to those who could fight, work, and serve the Empire. This was logical. This was survival. But humans clung to their children like the younglings were made of gold. High Command wants to study human behavior, Wraith finally answered. It was partially true. The Empire's scientists were curious about human emotional bonds. They wanted to understand it before they eliminated it. We observe for now. They reached Settlement Zone 7 as the sun began to set. Humans had built a makeshift community in what remained of a residential district. Tents and salvaged materials formed shelters. Someone had painted flowers on a damaged wall. Children's voices carried through the evening air, laughing despite everything. Laughter. Another human peculiarity. A human woman approached them. She wore a dirty lab coat and carried a medical bag. Her name was Dr. Helen Carter. She had been a scientist before the invasion. Now she served as the settlement's doctor and unofficial leader. Wraith had spoken with her several times. She showed no fear of him, which was either brave or stupid. Commander, she said with a slight nod. No bowing. Humans were stubborn about their pride. We need more medical supplies. The children have infections from the water. Purify the water yourselves, Voss snapped. We gave you the equipment. The equipment broke, Dr. Carter replied calmly. We need parts. Wraith studied her face. Humans were easy to read once you understood their expressions. She was tired, worried, but not defeated. Never defeated these humans. I will send parts tomorrow, Wraith said. Voss looked at him sharply but said nothing. Show me the settlement. I want to inspect conditions. Dr. Carter led them through the zone. Humans watched from doorways and windows. Some held children close. Others just stared with hard eyes. Wraith had seen hatred before on conquered worlds, but human hatred felt different. It burned colder, lasted longer. They passed a small open area where someone had tried to rebuild a playground. Broken swings hung from rusted chains. A slide stood bent but still standing. A little girl sat alone on the edge of the playground, her shoulders shaking. That's Lucy Bennett, Dr. Carter said softly. She's 10 years old. Lost both parents in the first attack. She saw them die. Then why does she cry now? Voss asked. The grief should have passed. She's not crying for herself, Dr. Carter explained. Yesterday a building collapsed in Zone 4. Lucy was there with a volunteer group. She tried to save a woman's baby from the rubble. She couldn't, the baby died. Now Lucy cries for a child she barely knew, for a mother she never met. Wraith felt something uncomfortable in his chest. The Dracorians had removed most emotional responses from their genetics 800 years ago. They had engineered out love, sadness, compassion. These were weaknesses that distracted from strength and conquest. Yet watching the small human child cry for a stranger's offspring created a sensation he couldn't name. Inefficient, Voss muttered, wasting energy on grief for others. This is why humans are weak, but Wraith kept watching. Other humans approached Lucy. They sat with her, put arms around her small shoulders, spoke words he couldn't hear from this distance. Nobody told her to stop crying. Nobody called her weak. They simply stayed with her until the shaking stopped. We should return to base, Wraith said finally. His voice sounded strange to his own ears. That night, Wraith couldn't enter sleep mode properly. His mind kept returning to the crying child, to the way humans gathered around her, to the question that Voss had asked, why cry for others? Dracoreans didn't cry. They had removed tear ducts along with emotional responses. Crying served no tactical purpose. It didn't make you stronger, faster, or smarter. It was pure weakness. Yet humans cried and still they fought. They cried and still they survived. They cried and still they found reasons to paint flowers on broken walls. Wraith pulled up human history files on his console. He had reviewed them before but never really looked. Now he read about human wars, human disasters, human losses, and in every story humans cried. They cried and then they rebuilt. They cried and then they helped each other. They cried and then they kept going. Maybe crying wasn't the weakness. Maybe it was something else. The thought disturbed him more than any battle he'd ever fought. 3 weeks passed like water through broken glass. Wraith found himself returning to Settlement Zone 7 more than necessary. He told himself it was due diligence. High Command expected detailed reports on human behavior, but deep in whatever remained of his altered consciousness, he knew this was a lie. He was watching Lucy Bennett. The child moved through the settlement like a small sun. Despite losing everything, despite living in a world occupied by creatures that could kill her with one claw, she smiled. She helped distribute food. She read stories to younger children. She even tried to teach an elderly man how to play some human game with colored stones. It made no logical sense. Dracorian young were trained from hatching, combat, strategy, survival. By age 10, a Dracorian child could pilot a fighter craft and had already killed in training exercises. Lucy Bennett couldn't even lift a proper weapon, yet humans trusted her with their most vulnerable. One evening, Wraith conducted another inspection. Dr. Carter walked beside him, explaining the settlement's waste management system. Humans were resourceful when survival demanded it. They had created something functional from scraps. You come here often now, Dr. Carter observed. Her tone was neutral, but her eyes were sharp. More than other commanders visit their assigned zones. I am thorough, Wraith replied. You're curious, she corrected. About us. About why we do things that don't make sense to you. Wraith said nothing. Silence was safer than admission. They turned a corner and found Lucy in the rebuilt playground again, but this time she wasn't crying. She was drawing with chalk on the broken pavement. Crude images of flowers and birds covered the concrete. A rainbow arced over a house. Stick figures held hands in a row. Lucy, Dr. Carter called. Come meet Commander Wraith properly. The child looked up. Most humans showed fear when meeting a Dracorian up close. Lucy just studied him with brown eyes that seemed too old for her small face. She stood and walked over, chalk dust on her hands and knees. Hello, Lucy said simply. Hello, Wraith replied. The word felt awkward. Dracorians didn't greet children. They barely acknowledged their own young beyond training assessments. Are you the one who sent the water parts? Lucy asked. Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez's baby was getting sick. The clean water helped. Lucy tilted her head. Why do you watch me sometimes? The question struck like a plasma bolt. Dr. Carter's eyebrows rose. Wraith realized his observations had not been as subtle as he'd believed. I observe all humans, Wraith said stiffly. But you watch me more, Lucy said, not accusing. Just stating a fact. I see you sometimes, in the shadows, like you're trying to understand something. Children were supposed to be simple, direct, uncomplicated. This child saw too much. You behave in ways I find unusual, Wraith admitted. Honesty seemed safer than more lies. You cry for strangers. You help when it gains you nothing. You draw pictures on destroyed ground. Why? Lucy looked at her chalk drawings. Because it's still there. The ground, I mean. Just because it's broken doesn't mean nothing can grow there anymore. And I cry because someone should. If nobody cries, it's like those people didn't matter. But they're dead, Wraith said. Crying doesn't change that. No, Lucy agreed. But it changes us. It means we still care, that we're still human. She looked up at him with those two old eyes. Don't you ever cry for anything? The question hit harder than expected. My species removed that ability, along with other emotional responses. We became stronger without them. Did you? Lucy asked softly. Or did you just become emptier? Dr. Carter put a hand on Lucy's shoulder. That's enough philosophy for today. Go help with dinner prep. Lucy nodded and walked away, but not before looking back at Wraith one more time, as if she could see something inside him that he couldn't see himself. That night, Wraith accessed restricted files, information the Empire kept from most citizens. He learned about Dracoran history before the genetic modifications. His species had been different once. They had created art, written poetry, formed bonds beyond mere tactical alliances. Then the great engineers decided emotions were holding them back. They rebuilt Dracoran genetics piece by piece, removed love, eliminated grief, stripped away compassion. The result was a perfect warrior race, efficient, ruthless, unstoppable, but the files also showed what was lost. Music, literature, philosophy, all. The things that made a species more than just survival machines. The Dracorians had conquered the galaxy, but they'd surrendered their souls to do it. Wraith turned off the console and sat in darkness. For the first time in his 140 years of life, he wondered if victory was worth the cost. The next morning, he returned to the settlement. Lucy was teaching younger children a song, something about stars and dreams and hope. The melody was simple, but the children sang with joy, pure, uncomplicated joy. When she finished, Lucy noticed him and walked over. You came back, she said. I have duties here, Wraith replied. You have duties everywhere, but you keep coming here. Lucy sat on a broken piece of concrete. Can I ask you something? Wraith nodded. Do you have a family? Parents, children. Dracorians are hatched in genetic facilities. We are raised in training cadres. Family bonds are inefficient. That sounds lonely, Lucy said. We do not experience loneliness. Everyone experiences loneliness, Lucy countered, even if you can't name it. She pulled out a small notebook and a pencil. I draw pictures of people. It helps me remember them. My mom, my dad, my teacher, even people I barely knew. She started sketching. Would you like me to draw you? Why would you do that? So someone remembers you existed. So you're not just a scary dragon soldier, but a person with a face and a story. No one had ever offered to remember Wraith before. In Dracorian culture, only the greatest warriors were recorded in history. Everyone else simply served and died. I am not a person, Wraith said quietly. I am a weapon. Lucy looked up from her drawing. Maybe you were made to be a weapon. But I think you're becoming a person. Weapons don't watch little girls draw flowers. Weapons don't ask questions about crying. Weapons don't look sad when they think nobody's watching. I do not look sad. I cannot. Your eyes do, Lucy said. She showed him the drawing. Somehow, with just pencil lines, she had captured something in his expression, something that looked like loss. Wraith stared at the image, at himself rendered in graphite and paper, at the eyes that did indeed look sad despite genetic engineering. Keep it, Lucy said, tearing out the page. So you remember that someone saw you? Really saw you? Wraith took the paper with careful claws. The gesture was so small, so meaningless in the grand scope of galactic conquest. Yet it felt like the most important thing anyone had ever given him. Rain hammered against the settlement's makeshift roofs when everything changed. Wraith had been reviewing supply reports in his command post when the priority message arrived. His scales went rigid as he read the orders. High Commander Drask wanted all human settlements reorganized. The elderly would be terminated first. They consumed resources but provided no labor. The sick would follow. Then anyone who couldn't work efficiently. The Empire didn't maintain useless populations. The executions would begin in Settlement Zone 7. Tomorrow at dawn. Wraith read the order 3 times. Each time the words remained the same. Each time something inside him recoiled. This wasn't unusual for conquered species. The Dracorians had done this on dozens of worlds. Standard protocol. Maximum efficiency. So why did his claws tremble as he held the datapad? He arrived at Settlement Zone 7 before sunrise. He told himself he was ensuring proper preparation for the executions. Another lie. He was warning Dr. Carter. She met him at the settlement entrance, already awake despite the early hour. Her face told him she knew something was wrong. "What's happened?" she asked quietly. "High Command has issued new orders." Wraith's voice sounded flat even to himself. "All elderly and sick humans in this settlement are to be terminated at dawn. It is considered a resource optimization measure." Dr. Carter's face went pale. "How many?" 73 individuals. They're people, not numbers. Her voice shook with fury and fear. "You can't do this. I have orders. Then disobey them. Dracorians do not disobey orders." But even as he said it, Wraith knew the words rang hollow. Dr. Carter grabbed his arm. Her hand couldn't even wrap halfway around his scaled forearm, but the gesture stopped him cold. "You've been watching us for months, studying us, trying to understand why we care about each other. Now you'll kill the people we care about? Caring is your weakness," Wraith said, but his voice carried no conviction. "Then let us be weak," Dr. Carter shot back. "At least we're still alive inside." Wraith pulled away and walked into the settlement. Dawn was coming fast. Other Dracorian soldiers would arrive soon. The executions would proceed whether he participated or not. He found Lucy awake in the community center. She sat with an elderly man who was teaching her to play chess with pieces carved from wood scraps. The man's hands shook as he moved the pieces. He laughed when Lucy made a clever move. Lucy saw Wraith and smiled. Then she saw his expression and the smile died. "Something's wrong," she said. The elderly man looked up. His name was Robert. He had been a teacher before the invasion. Now he spent his days sharing knowledge with children who had lost their schools. "You should say goodbye," Wraith heard himself say, "to anyone you care about. The Empire has decided that non-productive humans will be terminated. Starting today." Lucy's face crumpled. "Mr. Robert is productive. He teaches us. He tells stories. He helps people feel less scared. He does not labor. He cannot fight. By Dracorian standards, he serves no purpose." "By Dracorian standards, I serve no purpose either," Lucy said. Her voice was small but fierce. "I'm just a kid. I can't work like adults." "Should you kill me too?" "Children have future productivity value," Wraith recited. The explanation sounded monstrous even to himself. Lucy stood and walked to Mr. Robert. She put her small arms around the old man's shoulders. "You're not taking him." "Lucy, please," Mr. Robert said gently. "Don't make this harder." "No." Lucy's voice cracked but didn't break. "They can't just decide who lives and who dies. That's not strength. That's just being bullies with bigger weapons." Other humans began gathering. Word spread fast in the settlement. Within minutes, dozens of people filled the community center. Then hundreds. They brought the elderly with them, the sick, anyone who was marked for execution. Dr. Carter stood at the front. "We won't let you take them." Voss arrived with a squad of Dracorian soldiers. His weapons were charged and ready. He saw the crowd of humans and sneered. "Move aside or be terminated with them," Voss announced. "High Command has ordered efficiency measures. Comply or die." Nobody moved. Wraith watched as Lucy stepped forward, one small human child facing down a squad of warriors who could vaporize her with a thought. She spread her arms wide, standing between the soldiers and the elderly. "If you're going to kill them, kill me first," Lucy said. Her voice shook, but her feet stayed planted. "Because I won't watch you murder people just for being old or sick." "That's not right. That's not strong. That's just evil." Other children joined her. Then adults. Soon a wall of humans stood between the Dracorians and their targets. Unarmed, fragile, absolutely terrified but refusing to move. Voss raised his weapon. "Last warning." Wraith's mind raced. Protocol demanded he support his fellow soldiers. Orders were absolute. Disobedience meant treason. But looking at Lucy's face, at her tears streaming down as she stood her ground, he saw something his species had lost. True courage. Not the absence of fear, but acting despite it. "Stand down," Wraith said. Voss turned to him. "Commander?" I said, "Stand down. These humans are needed for labor assignments. The elderly provide knowledge. The sick can recover. Terminating them reduces long-term productivity." It was a thin excuse, a transparent lie. Voss's expression showed he knew it. "You're countermanding High Command orders," Voss said slowly. "I'm interpreting them with ground-level intelligence," Wraith replied. His heart pounded. "These humans have value the High Commander didn't account for. I will file a detailed report explaining the decision." Voss stared at him for a long moment. Then he lowered his weapon. "This is your command, sir. Your responsibility." The Dracorian squad withdrew. The humans remained frozen, barely believing they were still alive. Lucy ran to Wraith. She stopped just in front of him, looking up with those two knowing eyes. "Thank you." "Do not thank me," Wraith said harshly. "I have only delayed the inevitable. When High Command reviews my report, they will send others. I cannot protect you forever." "You protected us today," Lucy said simply. "That's enough for today." That night, Wraith composed his report. He knew it wouldn't satisfy his superiors. He knew questions would be asked. Doubts would be raised. His loyalty would be questioned. He also knew he didn't care anymore. Somewhere between watching Lucy cry for strangers and seeing her stand fearlessly against armed soldiers, something had broken inside him, or maybe something had finally healed. The genetic modifications that stripped away Dracorian emotions weren't perfect. They were just suppressed, buried deep, and Lucy Bennett had somehow dug them back up. Wraith looked at the drawing she had made of him, the sad eyes staring back from the paper. He had been a weapon his entire life, following orders, conquering worlds, never questioning. But weapons didn't make choices. Weapons didn't feel guilt. Weapons didn't lie awake wondering if they were fighting for the wrong side. Maybe Lucy was right. Maybe he was becoming something more than a weapon. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like waking from a very long sleep. The response from High Command arrived exactly 3 days later. Wraith knew what it would say before he opened it. He had bought the settlement time, nothing more. Now the bill was due. The message was brief and absolute. Settlement Zone 7 would undergo complete restructuring in 48 hours. All human children under the age of 12 would be terminated. They consumed resources without providing adequate labor. The decision was final. This time there would be no delays. No exceptions. High Commander Drask himself would oversee the operation. Wraith stood alone in his quarters, reading the order again and again. His scaled hands clenched and unclenched. 800 years ago, before the genetic modifications, a Dracorian in his position would have felt rage, horror, despair. Now he felt only a hollow sensation he couldn't name. No. That was another lie. He could name it. He had learned the word from humans. Grief. He was grieving for children who weren't dead yet. For a future that would be erased. For a little girl who had taught a dragon to see. Wraith accessed his personal files and pulled up everything he had collected on human culture. Philosophy, history, art, stories of humans facing impossible odds and finding ways to survive. Not through superior strength or technology, but through stubborn refusal to give up. One quote kept appearing in human texts. Different words, same meaning, across dozens of languages and centuries. All that is necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Wraith had always dismissed such concepts. Good and evil were primitive moral constructs. The universe operated on strength and weakness, predator and prey, conqueror and conquered. But watching Lucy stand between soldiers and the elderly, he had seen something that transcended simple survival. He had seen someone choosing to risk everything for others, not because it was logical, but because it was right. The Dracorians had removed emotions to become better warriors. What if they had simply removed the things that made life worth fighting for? Wraith made his decision. He found Lucy in the settlement gardens. She was helping younger children plant seeds in salvaged containers, vegetables that would take months to grow. A pointless exercise for children who would be dead in 2 days. "Lucy," Wraith said quietly, "I need to speak with you." She looked up and immediately read his expression. "Something's wrong. Something worse. Come with me. Bring Dr. Carter." They met in an abandoned building at the settlement's edge. Dr. Carter arrived looking exhausted. She had dark circles under her eyes. She knew what was coming. Perhaps she had always known. "They're going to kill the children," she said. "Not a question." "Yes, in 48 hours. High Commander Drask will personally oversee the operation. There will be no stopping it." Lucy's face went pale, but she didn't cry. "All the children?" "Everyone under 12 years old. The Empire has decided human children consume too many resources." "Then we run," Dr. Carter said immediately. "We hide them." "Where?" Wraith asked. "The Dracorians control all orbital space, all major population centers, all transportation networks. There is nowhere on Earth we cannot find you." "Then what do we do?" Dr. Carter's voice broke. Just let them die? No. Wraith spread a map across the table. His claws traced underground tunnels beneath the city. You run, and I help you. They both stared at him. These tunnels connect to the old subway system, Wraith continued. Before the invasion, humans used them for transportation. Now they're abandoned. The Dracoreans don't monitor them closely because they're considered structurally unsound. You want us to hide thousands of people underground? Dr. Carter asked. No, I want you to escape. The tunnels lead to the coast. 37 miles from here. There are islands offshore that the Empire hasn't bothered occupying. Too small, too remote. You take the children there. You survive. Lucy reached out and touched Wraith's scaled hand. The gesture was so small, so trusting. You're helping us escape. Yes. They'll know you helped. They'll kill you. Yes, then why? Lucy's eyes filled with tears. Why would you die for us? Wraith looked at her. This child who had somehow taught a weapon to feel, who had asked a dragon if he ever cried, who had stood fearless against armed soldiers because it was the right thing to do. Because you asked me a question once, Wraith said quietly. You asked if I ever cried for anything. The answer was no. My species removed that ability because crying meant caring and caring was weakness. But you showed me something I had never seen before. You cried for strangers. You stood up for the elderly. You risked everything for people who couldn't help you in return. And in doing so, you were stronger than any warrior I have ever known. He pulled out the drawing Lucy had made of him weeks ago, the dragon with sad eyes. You saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. You saw that I was empty, that my species had gained the galaxy but lost our souls. You made me remember what we were before we became weapons, and now I cannot stand by and let them murder children. I cannot follow orders that make me less than what you believed I could be. Lucy was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I don't want you to die. Someone must create a diversion. The Dracoreans will focus on the settlement during the operation. That's when you run. I will ensure they focus on me long enough for you to escape. Dr. Carter wiped her own eyes. How long do we have? 48 hours. Gather only what you can carry. Tell only people you trust absolutely. If word reaches the wrong ears, everyone dies. We need weapons, Dr. Carter said. Some way to defend ourselves once we reach the islands. Wraith input a code into his datapad. I'm uploading Dracorian weapon specifications. Your scientists can build crude versions from salvaged materials. It won't match our technology, but it's better than nothing. I'm also giving you our communication frequencies, our patrol schedules, everything I can think of that might help you survive. You're committing treason, Dr. Carter said. Yes. Wraith felt something strange in his chest. Not fear, not regret, something almost like peace. But it's my treason, my choice. For the first time in my life, I am choosing what I believe is right rather than simply following orders. Lucy threw her arms around Wraith's leg. She barely reached his knee, but she held on tight. Thank you. Thank you for becoming more than what they made you. Wraith carefully, gently placed one scaled hand on her head. The gesture felt foreign but right. Thank you for showing me that was possible. The next 48 hours passed in a blur of secret preparations. Humans gathered supplies in the dark. They told children to pack favorite toys, not understanding why. Dr. Carter organized groups. Wraith disabled security systems one by one, making each failure look like technical malfunction. On the final night, Wraith found Lucy in the playground one last time. She was looking at the stars. My mom used to say people become stars when they die, Lucy said softly. Do Dracorians become stars? We believe our energy returns to the universe, Wraith replied. Perhaps it's the same thing. Then I'll look for you up there. And I'll remember you weren't just a dragon soldier. You were Wraith, you were brave. You were kind. You were my friend. Wraith felt moisture in his eyes. Impossible. Dracorians couldn't cry. Their tear ducts had been removed centuries ago. But a single drop rolled down his scaled cheek anyway. The first tear a Dracorian had shed in 800 years. I learned to cry, Wraith said, his voice wondering. You taught a dragon to weep? Lucy smiled through her own tears. Then you're not empty anymore. No, he wasn't empty. He was full of grief and fear and hope and love. All the things his species had thrown away. All the things that made life matter. Tomorrow he would die, but tonight he was finally alive. Dawn broke red over Settlement Zone 7. Wraith stood at the settlement's center, waiting. Around him, the zone appeared normal. Humans moved between shelters. Children's voices echoed in the distance. Everything looked exactly as it should. But beneath the settlement in the abandoned tunnels, thousands of humans were already moving. Dr. Carter led them through darkness, following the maps Wraith had provided. Every child under 12 was down there. Many adults, too. Anyone who would rather risk the tunnels than face Dracorian extermination. High Commander Drask arrived with 3 full battalions. Enough firepower to level the entire settlement in minutes. His ship descended like a falling moon, blocking out the sun. Drask himself was massive even by Dracorian standards. His scales were deep crimson, marked with scars from 100 battles. He saw Wraith and approached with heavy steps. "Commander Wraith," Drask said. His voice rumbled like thunder. "Are the humans prepared for processing?" "They are aware of the operation," Wraith replied carefully. Drask studied the settlement. "Where are the children?" "The streets are too quiet. Many are in the community center, others in family shelters. Show me." Wraith led Drask toward the community center. His hearts pounded. Every second bought the humans more distance. Every moment of delay meant more lives saved. They entered the building. It was empty. Drask's eyes narrowed. "Where are they?" "They must have moved to the residential sector," Wraith said. "All of them?" "At once?" Drask's tail lashed. "Show me the residential sector." Wraith led him through the settlement. Each building was empty. Not just of children, but of most adults, too. The few humans remaining were elderly, too frail to make the underground journey. They had volunteered to stay behind to make the deception more convincing. Drask's rage built with each empty building. Finally, in the 5th shelter, he turned on Wraith with teeth bared. "Where are the humans?" "I don't understand the question," Wraith replied calmly. "Don't play games with me, Commander. The settlement is empty." "Where are they?" "I see humans right here." Wraith gestured to the elderly couple sitting calmly at a table. They looked at Drask without fear. Humans were so strange that way. They faced death with their heads high. Drask backhanded Wraith across the face. The blow sent him crashing through a wall. Pain exploded through his skull, but Wraith had expected worse. He stood slowly, scales cracked, blood running from his mouth. "You helped them escape," Drask snarled. "Treason. You committed treason for these weak creatures." "I saved valuable resources from unnecessary waste," Wraith said. "The humans have strategic value beyond simple labor." "Lies." Drask grabbed Wraith by the throat and lifted him off the ground. "You've been contaminated by human emotional weakness. I read your reports, your strange questions, your delays. You've gone native, Commander. You've betrayed everything the Dracorian Empire stands for." "Perhaps the Empire stands for the wrong things," Wraith choked out. Drask threw him into the street. Dracorian soldiers surrounded them now. Voss stood among them, his face unreadable. "Search the settlement," Drask commanded. "Find the humans. Kill anyone who resists." The soldiers spread out. Wraith knew they wouldn't find anyone. By now the humans were miles into the tunnel system. But he needed to buy them more time. Time to reach the coast. Time to escape to the islands. Time for the children to live. Wraith stood and activated his combat armor. Energy shields flared around him. Weapons deployed from his back mounts. He had been a decorated warrior once. A hero of the Empire. He remembered how to fight. "I won't let you follow them," Wraith said. "You think you can stop 3 battalions alone?" Drask laughed. "You're not just a traitor. You're a fool." "Probably," Wraith agreed. "But I'm a fool who learned something you forgot. Something the Empire erased from our genetics. I learned that some things are worth dying for." He opened fire. Plasma bolts struck Drask's shields. The High Commander roared and charged. Other soldiers joined the attack. Wraith fought like a warrior possessed. He moved through the settlement streets using buildings as cover, turning every corner into a death trap. He killed 6 soldiers in the first minute, 10 more in the second. His weapons overheated. His shields faltered, but he kept fighting. Voss appeared in front of him. They had trained together once, fought together on a dozen worlds. "And stand down, Commander," Voss said. "You can't win this." "I don't need to win," Wraith replied. "I just need to delay you." "Why?" "For humans. For creatures that will die in a few decades anyway. For children who will never be strong enough to matter." "Those children are stronger than we ever were," Wraith said. "They cry for each other. They help strangers. They risk everything for people they barely know. We conquered the galaxy, Voss, but we lost something far more valuable. We lost the ability to care about anything beyond conquest. Caring is weakness." "No. Wraith's voice was quiet but certain. Caring is what makes life worth living. I would rather die fighting for something I believe in than live forever as an empty weapon. Voss stared at him. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Doubt, perhaps, or recognition. Then he attacked. They fought through the streets. Two trained killers moving faster than human eyes could follow. Buildings crumbled. The ground shook. Wraith was wounded in a dozen places, but he kept fighting. Drask watched from above, circling on his wings. Enough of this. All units converge on Wraith's position. Bring him down. 30 Dracorian soldiers attacked at once. Wraith killed 3 more before they overwhelmed him. Plasma fire burned through his shields. Claws raked across his scales. He went down hard, armor shattered, weapons destroyed. They chained him in the settlement center. Heavy restraints meant for war prisoners. Drask landed in front of him. Where are the humans? Wraith said nothing. Drask struck him again. Where? Blood filled Wraith's mouth. He spat it at Drask's feet. Far enough that you'll never find them in time. We'll search every tunnel, every hiding place, and go ahead. The tunnel system spans hundreds of miles. By the time you map it all, they'll be gone, scattered to places you don't even know exist. Drask's eyes burned with fury. You've destroyed your career. Your honor. Everything you were, for what? So a few hundred humans can survive a few more months? No. Wraith looked up at the sky. The red dawn was fading to blue. Beautiful. He had never really noticed Earth's sky before. So they can teach others what they taught me. That strength without compassion is just brutality. That conquering without purpose is just waste. That living without caring is just existing. Sentimental garbage. Truth. Wraith met Drask's eyes. You can kill me. You can hunt the humans. But you can't stop what's already started. I wasn't the only Dracorian watching them. Wasn't the only one asking questions. Wasn't the only one who saw that maybe we lost something important when we engineered away our emotions. It was a lie. Or maybe a hope. Wraith didn't know if other Dracorians felt as he did, but he wanted Drask to believe it. Wanted him to fear it. Drask drew his blade. Any last words, traitor? Wraith thought of Lucy. Of her question that had started everything. Don't you cry for anything? He had an answer now. I learned to cry, Wraith said. After 800 years, a Dracorian shed tears again. That's worth dying for. Drask raised his blade. In the tunnels far below, Lucy heard the explosion that rocked the settlement. She knew what it meant. She pressed her hand against the cold tunnel wall and whispered, Thank you. Then she turned and followed the others toward the light at the tunnel's end, toward the ocean, toward hope, toward a future that a dragon had died to give her. Behind them, in the settlement, Wraith's last thought was a simple one. A small girl with brown eyes who had taught a weapon that it could choose to become something more. He died with a smile on his scarred face. The first Dracorian in 8 centuries to die for someone else rather than in conquest. And in dying, he had finally learned what it meant to truly live. 3 years crawled by like wounded soldiers. Earth looked different now. Not conquered, not free, but something in between. The Dracorian Empire still controlled the major cities, still patrolled the skies, but they no longer ruled unchallenged. The human resistance had grown. Armed with Dracorian technology that Wraith had given them, educated in Dracorian tactics he had taught Dr. Carter, they fought back. Small victories at first. A supply depot destroyed here, a patrol ambushed there, but small victories added up. The Dracorians found themselves in an unfamiliar position. For the first time in 10,000 years, they were fighting an enemy they couldn't simply crush. Humans were too scattered, too adaptable, too stubborn. Every time the Empire thought they had won, humans appeared somewhere else. And at the center of it all was a story. The story of a Dracorian commander who had chosen humans over his own species, who had died to save children, who had learned to cry. Lucy was 13 now, taller, older, but still carrying the same fierce compassion that had changed a dragon's heart. She lived on one of the coastal islands with hundreds of other refugees. The settlement had grown into a small town. Gardens produced food. Salvage technology provided power. Children went to school in buildings made from driftwood and hope. She stood on the beach watching the mainland through binoculars. Smoke rose from the city. Another battle. Another day of humans refusing to give up. Dr. Carter approached from behind. She looked older too, hair graying at the temples, new lines around her eyes. War-aged everyone. Lucy, we've received a transmission, Dr. Carter said. From the Dracorian Empire. They want to negotiate. Lucy lowered the binoculars. Negotiate what? A ceasefire. Potentially a treaty. They're offering to meet at neutral ground. It's a trap. Maybe. But they specifically requested you be part of the human delegation. Lucy turned. Me? Why? Because you're famous, Lucy. The girl who made a dragon cry, the child who stood up to Dracorian soldiers and lived. Every resistance cell on Earth knows your story. Some Dracorians know it too. Dr. Carter handed her a datapad. Look at this. It came through on Dracorian communication channels. Lucy read the message. It was written in Dracorian script, translated by their computers. A manifesto of sorts, written by young Dracorian soldiers questioning the Empire's purpose, questioning why they fought, questioning whether conquest was worth losing their souls. They called themselves the Wraith movement. There are Dracorians who want change, Dr. Carter said. Not many, but enough to matter. They've been reading about what Wraith did, about why he did it. Some of them are refusing orders. Some are deserting. The Empire is having its first civil crisis in 8 centuries. Lucy felt tears on her face. After 3 years, she still cried sometimes. For her parents. For Mr. Robert and the other elderly who had stayed behind. For Wraith, who she had known for such a short time but who had changed everything. What do they want from me? Lucy asked. To see you. To understand why one of their greatest warriors chose to die for a human child. To hear you speak about what Wraith believed. I'm just a kid. You're the kid who started a revolution without firing a shot. Dr. Carter put a hand on Lucy's shoulder. Will you go? Lucy looked at the ocean. 3 years ago, she had escaped through tunnels beneath the earth, carried by adults fleeing for her life. Now those same adults were asking her to face the people who had tried to kill her. Yes, Lucy said. For Wraith, he believed in change. I should too. The meeting took place on a decommissioned cargo ship anchored between the mainland and the islands. Neutral ground. Both sides brought soldiers but agreed to no weapons in the actual meeting room. Lucy walked into the room flanked by Dr. Carter and 2 human guards. On the other side sat High Commander Dresk. He looked exactly as she remembered from the stories. Red scales, battle scars, eyes like burning coals. Next to him sat Voss, the young Dracorian who had been Wraith's second in command. Lucy recognized him from Wraith's descriptions. Everyone sat. The silence stretched like pulled metal. Finally, Dresk spoke. You are the child. The one Wraith died for? Yes, Lucy said. Her voice only shook a little. Why? Why what? Why did a decorated commander, a hero of the Empire, betray everything for you? What did you do to him? Lucy met his burning eyes. I asked him if he ever cried for anything. Dresk snorted. Crying. Meaningless weakness. That's what he thought too, Lucy said. At first. But then he watched us. Watched how we cried for each other. How we helped strangers. How we risked everything for people we barely knew. And he realized something your Empire forgot. Which is that caring about others isn't weakness. It's what makes life worth living. You conquered the galaxy, but you're empty inside. You have everything and nothing. Wraith saw that. He chose to die for something he believed in rather than live forever believing in nothing. Voss spoke for the first time. The Wraith movement grows every day. Young Dracorians reading about what he did, questioning orders. Some refuse to fight anymore. Some have joined human resistance cells. The Empire is fracturing because one commander chose emotion over logic. Traitors, Dresk growled. Or the first honest Dracorians in 800 years, Voss countered. He looked at Lucy. I was there when Wraith died. I heard his last words. He said he learned to cry. I thought it was the rambling of a broken mind. But I've been thinking about it for 3 years. Researching what we were before the genetic modifications. What we lost. Voss reached into his armor and pulled out a data crystal. This contains everything the Empire erased from our history. Art, music, poetry, philosophy, love. All the things we thought made us weak. I've been sharing it. Teaching it. Hundreds of young Dracorians have seen it now, thousands. You're spreading disease, Dresk said. I'm spreading truth, Voss replied. And I'm here to negotiate not just for humans, but for Dracorians who want to be more than weapons. Dr. Carter leaned forward. What are you proposing? A ceasefire, Voss said. Earth remains human-controlled. The Empire withdraws. In exchange, we ask that you share what you know. Teach us how to feel again. Help us become what we were before we destroyed ourselves in pursuit of strength. You want us to rehabilitate you? Dr. Carter's voice was skeptical. After you invaded us? Killed millions? No. Voss's voice was quiet. We don't deserve rehabilitation. We deserve judgment. But the young Dracoreans who are just now learning what was stolen from them, they deserve a chance. Just as Wraith deserved the chance Lucy gave him. Lucy felt the weight of everyone's eyes. The decision would ultimately fall to human leadership, but her voice mattered. She was the symbol, the girl who had changed a dragon. Wraith told me something before he died, Lucy said slowly. He said he was choosing to become more than what they made him. That everyone should have that choice. She looked at Voss. Do the young Dracoreans want to change? Really? Or do they just want to stop feeling guilty about conquest? I don't know, Voss admitted. Some want real change. Others might just be confused. But isn't confusion better than absolute certainty in the wrong thing? Isn't questioning better than blind obedience? Lucy thought about Mr. Robert, the elderly teacher who had played chess with her, about the children who had stood with her against soldiers, about Wraith crying his first tears in 800 years. We'll agree to a ceasefire, Lucy said. Everyone turned to her. She wasn't officially part of the negotiating team, but in that moment she spoke with authority beyond her 13 years. But on conditions, Earth remains human-controlled. The Empire pays reparations, and the young Dracoreans who want to learn how to feel again, they come here. They live with us. They see how we live. If they truly want to change, they'll have to learn by example, not just theory. Drask stood abruptly. Unacceptable. You want our young to become soft like you? I want your young to become alive, Lucy shot back. Like Wraith, he wasn't soft. He was the bravest person I ever met. He fought 3 battalions alone to save children he barely knew. If that's what you call soft, then I hope more Dracoreans become soft. Voss stood too. I accept the terms. I'll bring the first group of young Dracoreans myself. We'll learn from humans, and maybe eventually we'll remember how to be more than weapons. The ceasefire held, shakily at first with violations and accusations on both sides. But it held. Young Dracoreans came to Earth. Dozens at first, then hundreds. They lived in human communities, learned human customs. At first they struggled. Centuries of genetic modification couldn't be undone easily, but slowly, over months and years, things changed. A Dracorean soldier helped rebuild a school and felt satisfaction for the first time. A Dracorean scientist worked with human doctors to cure diseases and felt purpose beyond conquest. A Dracorean child hatched in the new generation, raised without the genetic modifications and laughed at a joke. A sound no Dracorean had made in 8 centuries. Lucy grew into adulthood watching these changes. She became a teacher, helping young Dracoreans understand emotions they had never felt. She told them about Wraith, about his questions, his doubts, his final choice. On the 10th anniversary of Wraith's death, they built a memorial. A statue of a Dracorean and a human child standing together. The plaque read simply, Commander Wraith. He learned to cry. He taught us all that true strength includes compassion. Lucy stood at the memorial with Dr. Carter, now white-haired but still strong. Voss stood with them, no longer a soldier but a teacher like Lucy. Do you think he'd be proud? Lucy asked. Of what we've built? He died believing change was possible, Dr. Carter said. Look around. Humans and Dracoreans working together, learning from each other. Yes, I think he'd be proud. Voss touched the statue gently. The Wraith movement has spread beyond Earth. Young Dracoreans across the Empire are questioning, changing, remembering. It's slow. It's hard, but it's happening. He looked at Lucy. You gave him the chance to become more than a weapon. Thank you for giving us the same chance. Lucy looked up at the stars. Somewhere up there, Wraith's energy had returned to the universe. Maybe he was watching. Maybe he knew that his death had meant something. I see you, Lucy whispered to the stars. I remember you, not as a dragon soldier but as Wraith, my friend. The first Dracorean in 800 years to choose love over conquest. A breeze moved through the memorial garden. Children played nearby, human and Dracorean together, laughing in the evening light. The war wasn't over. Trust took time to build. Generations would pass before the wounds truly healed. But looking at the children playing together, Lucy felt hope. One child had asked one question. One dragon had chosen to answer honestly. And from that simple moment, everything had changed. Because in the end, The most powerful force in the universe wasn't superior weapons or genetic engineering. It was the stubborn, illogical, beautifully human belief that everyone deserved a chance to become more than what they were made to be. Even dragons could learn to cry. Even weapons could choose to become guardians. Even in the darkest occupation, hope could take root in a child's question and a warrior's tear. And that was worth remembering, worth teaching, worth building a future upon. Lucy smiled and turned back to the memorial. Thank you, Wraith, for everything. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter as if in answer.